Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Uppsala once again, about an hour or so to the north of Stockholm, of course another really big university city over here in Sweden. But for this one we're going to do my second review from Tempel Brygghus, and this one is the Perdition, which is a sour raspberry stout. It comes in at 8.3%, and much like the last beer I had from Tempel Brygghus, this guy is quite highly rated overall. On Rate Beer it was given 87 overall but 44 within the style. That was the same for the monstrosity that I reviewed for you before, which it kind of indicates that the beer should be pretty good, but it will be kind of quirky within the style. But I guess one of the debates you have with this beer is whether you rate it as a sour beer or as a stout, because I guess it's got characteristics of both. But Tempel Brygghus, of course, do have a good reputation for themselves, rightly so in my experience, and this beer actually does remind me a little bit of the Raspy Engine that I had from Harvesting Brewery at home, although that was a sour raspberry porter rather than a stout. Of course, the key difference between the two styles mainly is the mouthfeel from the yeast strain that they use in them. But this should be another really nice beer, and of course we do have Satipoja and Brickeri as well in Sweden, who are sour beer specialists. But definitely looking forward to this one, and I hope you guys enjoy the review as well. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews I've done from Tempel Brygghus before. Hopefully I can add some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you before. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review, especially some of the stuff from Sweden that I might not have heard of. But the support and the input that you give to the channel is always hugely appreciated. So don't hesitate to get in touch through Facebook, Twitter, Untappd, whatever you want. It's always great to hear from you guys. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Tempel Brygghus once again. So as I've mentioned to you before, these guys were founded back in 2014 by Arvid Lundgren, and they currently are based just about 5 kilometers outside of the city of Uppsala. So the brewery actually apparently has roots back in Västerås, and Arvid was originally a home brewer, and that's the case with many of these Swedish breweries. In fact, there's a huge home brewing culture over here in Sweden, and he was at this for quite a few years before he decided to turn his hobby, I guess you would say, into a commercial business. So they actually shared the premises for a while with Jackdaw Brewery before establishing their own brewery, as I mentioned, about 5 k's outside of the city. But this brewery has a capacity of about 100,000 litres of beer per year, although they did brew only 17,000 litres, I think he said, in the first year, and approximately double that in the second year. But they do say that this capacity can be expanded in the future with bigger fermentation tanks and things like that, and if their beers do prove quite popular, which I hear they are, they will do that at some point in the near future. But Arvid, of course, is joined at the brewery by Johan Holmedal, who previously worked for Slottskälen's Brewery up in Uppsala as well. The Castle Source Brewery, I believe that kind of translates into English as, but they do some really quite nice beers as well. You probably saw me review, I think it was their Winter Porter before. That was a really quite nice beer. But as I've mentioned to you before, Tempel Brygghus do kind of specialise in sour beers, and they do plan to add more kind of non-sour beers to their repertoire over the course of 2017 as well. And all their beers are distributed by Brill & Co as well, so you can find some of the Tempel Brygghus beers outside of Sweden. The first I actually heard of this brewery was on Beerjum, which is a website that distributes beer all across Europe. I'd never heard of these guys before, and I thought it was maybe one of it was the same as it was with Brickeri for a little while, where you couldn't actually get these beers in Sweden. But I looked them up on Systembolaget and I was able to order them. So yeah, this is how I got some Tempel Brygghus beers. But they do have quite a few beers available. So just to list a few of these for you, they have the Gehenna, which is just a regular sour ale, the Perdition, which is this guy here, of course, the sour raspberry stout, the Isotonic, which is a ghost, the Ordained, which is a green tea Berliner Weiss, very interesting sounding beer, that one. Hopefully I can review that for you. They have the Seraph, which is the low ABV one. I'm not sure if that's going to go into the supermarkets here. They have the Serpent, which is a sour rhubarb IPA, again very interesting sounding. The Wildebeest, which is a fruit beer, uses local fruits from the Uppsala area apparently, and they also have the Sweetjud, which is a collaboration gose from Jedros Brewery. So yeah, they also have the Monstrosity, which you saw me review before. That's a kind of hoppy sour beer. And then yeah, we have this one as well. So looking forward to this review. As always, if you want to learn more about the brewery for yourself, do check out the links in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and all of this sort of thing too. But yeah, let's get on to this beer now. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is an 8.3% stout, brewed with raspberries. Of course, there you can see once again this kind of heathen style of artwork that Tempel have. You can see There's the Tempel Brygghus symbol on the back. That, of course, is on the bottle cap as well. It's that kind of Illuminati eye sort of thing in that one. It's actually quite cool, I have to admit, but it says on the side here, contains caramel, raspberries, hallon of course in Swedish, humle and yeast, which is hops and yeast. So water, caramel, raspberries, hops and yeast. So apart from the raspberries, this one would of course do the German purity law, but it looks very nice, this beer, so we'll get it out and get on with the tasting then. Looking forward to this one, as I said. So yeah, nice smoky opening on this one then, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I can tell you right now, you can smell some of the nice raspberries off this one. It's actually quite light though. It is mainly the stouty characteristics that are coming off this beer. So we'll see, as I mentioned to you, I guess, this beer, there will be a bit of debate about whether you rate this as a sour beer or as a stout, but we'll give it a look and see how we get on. But as you can see, there was about a quarter finger or a half finger of a frothy brown beigey tan head, and that one's just faded away to be a very thin foamy layer. If I hold the beer up to the light, there is a little bit of a ruby edge to it, but not too much. I think it's fair to describe this beer as a kind of ebony rosewood colour. Some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, not too many though, and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of where the head would be. You can actually see quite a few little bubbles just breaking the surface on this one, but it definitely, just from moving the beer around like this, it does come across in the aroma as being more of a stout. But we'll take a closer look at it then and see how we get on. Oh right. As soon as you go into this beer, as soon as you take a whiff of it up close, first thing that's going to jump out at you right away is the raspberries. There's no mistake in that. It's got a nice kind of tart, sweet raspberry character to it, this beer. If you sugar it up a little bit more, you can maybe get a kind of candied sort of red fruit ester out of this one. You can pick up these sort of raisiny or maybe even slightly plummy notes, but it's an unmistakable raspberry character, which, I mean, when they're putting raspberries in the brew, that's exactly what you'd expect. But when you're a bit further away from it, you can start to pick up a little bit of the roasted black malts you'd expect of a stout, a bit of chocolate, maybe some kind of toasted brown sugars in there. But really, when you're up close and personal to it, it's definitely a nice kind of sharp raspberry note that you're getting out of this one. There's no two doubts about that. And again, when it says sour raspberry stout, that's exactly what you'd expect. But you can pick up a little bit of roasted black malt underneath, like I'm saying, some chocolate, some brown sugars in there. Maybe a sort of woody or nutty characters coming out of this beer as well. When you just let it settle again after sugaring it up, you can pick out a sort of woody, nutty kind of thing with this one. Maybe a wee touch of earthy hop as well, but overall it really is quite a nice, quite a nice fruity smelling beer. This, it really does have that big raspberry note. I love the smell of raspberries. Of course, it is a fruit that we eat quite a bit of in Scotland, and I really just love the smell of them. So I could sit and smell this beer all day. But really, the beer, it does, the aroma when you're in close to it, it leans more towards the raspberry kind of sour beer type thing. But then when you're a bit further away, you can start to pick up a little bit more of the stouty characteristics in this beer. But we'll have a taste of it and see what we think of it. So yeah, this one is the Perdition, a sour raspberry stout from Tempel Brygghus up in Uppsala in Sweden, here in Sweden. Skål! Ooh, that's really quite interesting. That's pretty good. It's a lot more sour than I remember the last one being. It really is a lot more sour than the other beer that I had from these guys. There's quite a lot of sediment actually visible in the bottle of this one, so we'll just put a little bit more of it in, but not too much. But this beer really does come across as being more. It really has more of that sour character than the last one did. The other one was very, very well balanced, but this one really leans towards that sharp, kind of citricy character that you get from Brettanomyces. But that is nice, I'll say that right away. I was saying at the start of the video that this beer would likely remind me of the Raspy Engine, which was a raspberry porter from Harveston Brewery, one of my local breweries back home in Scotland. But this is completely different. This is a lot more sour than that. This one is very, very sharp in its kind of citricy tart character, and it's really nice. Yeah, that's a nice beer. That I do like how it comes across, but just be aware when you're trying this one. This beer really is more for for people who are into the sour ale style. It sounds an odd thing to say with a sour beer, but this isn't one that you would maybe use to try and get into the style. The monstrosity that I had from these guys is probably a good one if you're not too sure about that style of beer, but for me this one definitely does fit more into the sour ale category than it does into the stout sort of side of things. The sour character in this one really is quite apparent, so just be aware of that if you're going to buy this beer to try. But there's no mistake in the quality in this beer. It is pretty damn good actually. So the first thing you're going to notice about this one is that this raspberry, the tart raspberry character just comes in. It attacks the tongue right away and it makes the beer feel very, very light. I always find this with sour beers is that even if it's a kind of sour stout or something like this, the mouthfeel of them tends to be a lot lighter, and it's the Brettanomyces character in them that gives them that. But this beer, it starts off very, very sharp and very tart, and then as it starts to progress into the aftertaste, you can gradually feel the stouty characteristics on this one just pushing their way out. So around the very kind of front sort of curves of your tongue, you're going to feel that sort of wet but also quite bitter, and maybe not bitter, that really sharp tart character come in with this beer. You're going to feel that right on the edge of your tongue, then it subsides a little bit and you just get the kind of juicy raspberries coming out. But in the middle of the palate, that's where these nice stout characteristics are coming out. You can pick up some of the roasted black malt in there. That is quite weak. The beer does lean more towards the sort of chocolatey and toasty brown sugar side of things. It is quite nice. Yeah, that is pretty good. It is definitely a bit more, the stouty side of things on this one is definitely a little bit more chocolatey and sort of brown sugary. There's a sort of woody, and there is a little bit of a woody, almost nutty, maybe even leathery kind of thing going on. If you just pay attention to the middle of your palate there, you can pick up this. It does, I think, now that I've said leathery, my head is telling me it is more of that. It does have that kind of leathery character to it, although there is a little bit of woodiness there. It's not really nutty, to be honest with you, but there is that woody that woody kind of leathery thing going on in the middle of the palate here, and you can feel the chocolate just a little bit on top of that, and some of these brown sugars too. There is just a little hint of a roasted black malt, but really not a lot at all. It's that kind of, for me, it's that sort of leathery, woody kind of thing that's just underpinning this one with the slightly sweeter aspects on top of the beer. It is really nicely done. Yeah, that's good. This is just really quite interesting. I think this is probably the first sort of a sour stout that I've come across. I think that must be right. In just over 1,000 videos, I think this is probably the first sour stout that I've come across. The closest thing I've had, as I said, was that raspberry porter from Harveston at home, but I don't think they added Brettanomyces to that. I think that was just a pure addition of raspberries into a porter. This one really is quite interesting. I love how you get the really sour bit at the start, then it just smooths out and it becomes a nice, almost slightly sweet stout. You've got a little bit of earthiness from the hops as well. On the sides of your palate and at the back corners, you can just feel a little bit of bitterness from the earthy hop side of things. But around the front curve of the palate, that kind of slight, you can feel just a little bit of almost grassy character from the hops, but you can feel your tongue just all the time kind of recovering a little bit from that big sort of sharp sour tart character that comes out of the Brettanomyces and from the raspberries, of course. But that's really nice. If you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it. The only thing I would say about this beer is throw caution to it if you're not too into the sort of sour beer style. I think, as I was saying, I think it's fairer to rate this beer as a sour ale rather than a stout, to be honest with you. It's got characteristics of both, but for me it really does. The strength of the sour character in this beer means that it really leans further toward the sour ale side of things than it does to the stout. So just go on the wind of caution with this one if you're trying this as somebody who's not too experienced when it comes to sour beers. But for me, when I've drank a few of these, I can say this is a pretty damn nice beer. I love the way the raspberry flavours come out in this one, and it works really well with the way they've done the stout as well. They've got the level of sweetness of the stout just right, so it gives you a really nice transition from big kind of sharp raspberry characters just into a nice sort of smooth chocolatey caramel sort of thing. It is a really quite nice beer, this. So yeah, if you get the chance to try this, the Tempel Perdition, I would pardon me, I would highly recommend that you do. It is really quite nicely done. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I'd say this is probably mid-bodied. It's a little bit heavier than the other ones. Yeah, I think it's fair to describe this one as being mid-bodied. The thing I pointed out in my last review from Tempel Brygghus was that I always personally find sour beers to be a little bit lighter, just because of the way the Brettanomyces and things come out. I always think the mouthfeel comes across as being a bit lighter. That's just me. As I always say, beer is subjective, so you might view it a little bit differently, but I think this one is mid-bodied. It's definitely heavier than the monstrosity that I had from these guys before. The carbonation is a little bit, it's kind of moderate, maybe pushing the slightly high carbonation. Again, that's something that I find is characteristic of sour beers. They do come across as a little bit more carbonated to me. More of a wet mouthfeel from this one. You've got a nice bit of sweetness from the malt base. That said, in the aftertaste, you can feel some of the more roasted aspects coming out of this one. And as I'm kind of progressing through the review, my palate is starting to pick up more and more of these roasted malts. So you do get a little bit of bitterness from the malt side of things, but it starts off quite sweet. The roastiness comes out, like I said, as the palate gets used to this beer. But there's a little bit of hoppiness. The hops on this kind of beer are quite smooth, but you've got quite a sharp kind of citricy tart character to this one. There's not much in the way of fruits other than the raspberries, maybe just a tiny little bit of a kind of red candied fruit ester in this one. Yeah, you can pick up a little bit of red kind of candied fruit ester things behind the front curve of your palate there, that little oily bubble I always talk about, but really a lot of the fruitiness is coming out with that sharp character around the edge of your palate. And of course, when it comes out like that, that is definitely the Brettanomyces that's doing that. But like I said, overall, this is a really quite nice beer. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again, but I'd love to try it on tap and just see how it would come across with a slightly thicker mouthfeel. I'd be interested to see what impact that has on the malty side of things. But I love the balance it has between the Brettanomyces and the raspberries, and that nice kind of slightly sweet malty base that it has. And as I said, the roasty characters just build in this one as your palate gets used to it. But I mean, the overall conclusion to take from this is that it's another really solid beer from Tempel Brygghus. So on the basis of this one, I can see why these guys are starting to build quite a reputation for themselves. It's another very, very good beer. So yeah, if you get the chance to try this one or any of the Tempel Brygghus beers, I would recommend them to you. This is me kind of looked at both sides of their brewing. The monstrosity was a lighter beer, whereas this one is one of their darker ones, so it kind of gives you an idea of how they do both ends of the spectrum. So probably the other ones I try from now will be somewhere in the middle of these, so it's always good to have a kind of idea of how a brewery does things. But this is another very, very solid beer from these guys, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. But for those of you who are not too into sour beers, I would recommend that you try one of their lighter beers instead before you jump into this one. But this is a very good beer for me. So yeah, until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Do let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on this beer. Always interesting to hear from you guys, like I said. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my usual social media. Make sure you have a try of some of these Tempel Brygghus beers if you get the chance. This one is really quite nice. So yeah, thank you for watching. Until the next time, slandered just now, and I will catch you very soon. This was the Perdition, a sour raspberry stout from Tempel Brygghus up in Uppsala here in Sweden. Slandered just now.